Level up your success with the ICABA World Network, where accomplished Black professionals and entrepreneurs have created a thriving global ecosystem built from valuable connections and impactful collaborations. Be a part of a trusted network that uplifts, inspires, and enhances your success. Join like-minded and leading Black professionals to foster meaningful relationships, unlock opportunities, and access the resources you need to thrive in your career, business, and life. Go to ICABAWorldNetwork.com and join today.
All right, guys, good to see you. So we're finishing up today our series as we've been talking about success and the wisdom needed in order to be successful in 2024. And so also given the fact that relationships are really big, and also just I'm sorry for forget, just as a quick reminder, this is being streamed. So just want you to know. So if someone says to you, "Hey, I saw you on TV," you won't be surprised and you'll know. So going back to what I was saying in terms of the individuals in looking at both Stephen Scott, but also today we're going to look at a book, and I'll hold the book up so that you can see. It's called God is My CEO by a guy by the name of Larry Julian. And there is in one of the chapters in the book, there is a really discussion on pressure from the outside, sticking to God's plan produces results. But I was also beginning to say, with us as members of ICABA, we have, by virtue of being here, demonstrated our value and commitment to building our relationships, expanding our network, and collaborating with other people. And so I thought it would be appropriate to close out our last piece, if you will, to relationships. Okay. And so I'm going to pull up this chapter here and share my screen. So chapter 6 in Stephen Scott's book, which is called The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. Dee, I know this is your first time with us on this. We've been this month looking at Stephen Scott's book, The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. And it's really about wisdom. It's not focused on just being rich, but being wise, and then wealth and health and great relationships and other kind of things come out of that. So, so talking again about, relationships. And so we want to talk a little bit about in chapter 6, the title of that chapter is The Great Accelerator, the Keys to Maximum Success in Minimum Time. And it really is about partnership, and maximum success is the key. So, there's that African proverb that says, you can go fast if you go alone, but you go far when you go with others. And in Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 22, it says, without counsel, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they succeed. And so Stephen Scott goes on to talk about why pursue your dreams at 5 miles per hour when you can go 65. Well, what he's saying is not so much about the speed, but the impact of how fast you can get there when there are other peoples who are part of the process, because you're not just moving at your own pace. And so on the next page, there's this statement: a partner or a counselor is anyone who can provide needed insight, advice, wisdom, or any practical help for the effective achievement of a specific project, goal, or dream. We live in a society that has for a long time kind of glorified independence. I pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I made it happen. I. And the reality is, I challenge anyone that can stand the test of knowing that they did not accomplish what they tried to do without somebody else. There's someone trying to get in, and I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to do that. Give me just a second. I want to send her the link, and she just sent me a text, so I'm going to text this right back to Houston up in Chicago. And let's see here. That was you, Sharon. Okay, there's Houston. Okay, and this was Ignacio. Okay. All right. So I'm back. I'm sorry for that interruption here. So as we're talking about, going together, there's an interesting story that excuse me, Scott tells here about going it alone. And he says something here, but I'm going to go to that story, but I'm going to read this first. It says, we've all heard the comment, I did the best I could. I've heard it 1,000 times at different ways. I can't do it any better. This is as good as it gets. That's not me, and I can never do that. Has anyone here ever had a situation, circumstance, anything that happened in your life when you were working on something and you just weren't getting there? You couldn't finish, you couldn't get it the way you wanted to be, you weren't accomplishing the task, and you got frustrated, exasperated, whatever, and you turned to somebody and asked for some help. And that person actually showed you or gave you some advice to help you to do it, and you kind of thought to yourself, well, I can't believe this. I mean, I really thought I had thought everything I could, tried everything I could. And sometimes what they tell you can be somewhat almost embarrassing as how simple that it might have been. Anyone besides me ever had that experience? Raise your hand. Well, I'll tell you my most embarrassing experience with that. My late niece, God rest her soul, when she was a little kid, maybe 14 years old, was visiting me. And at that time, my sister and husband had moved to Atlanta. She was in Louisville when I was still living there visiting. And I owned some video stores. And I'd taken her into the office with me because I think it was this time of year, actually, when you're sending out your 1099s and your W-2s and everything. And I was trying to put this form in the envelope. And so we're sitting there talking and uncle kind of being uncle. I got my niece and I can't get this thing in. And so she's watching me try to put this form in. She doesn't say anything. She grabs it out of my hand, turns the form around, slips it into the envelope the way it's supposed to be, and hands it back to me, just smiles. I'll never, ever forget that, But again, there is so much value in not trying to go it alone is really the point. So one of the things Scott talks about here is not experiencing, or that going it alone can cause you to experience financial loss and also personal humiliation. And everything he talks about goes back to some verse in Proverbs. And here, poverty and shame shall be to him that refuses instructions. Anybody you know, whether it's you, and I assume that this probably doesn't apply to anybody here, but I'll assume, though, that probably everybody here knows somebody that you may have even tried to help, and they're just determined they're going to do it their way. And next thing you know, they flame out, they burn out, and, it really isn't pretty. So he talks about 3 times in his life, he had investment opportunities that seemed like a can't miss moneymakers. He was so confident that they were sure things that he refused to listen to financial counselors and made the investments against their advice. He forgot what Solomon said in Proverbs 13:18, which we just read, and that the person who refuses instruction or counsel will experience both poverty and shame. Each of these 3 times, I lost every penny I had in savings. Each time I was driven to the edge of bankruptcy. Each time I was humiliated in front of my family and friends. Fortunately, my own business was such a productive partnership and so undeservedly blessed that I was able to recover and gain back most of my losses. And it goes on to talk about a friend of his who lost his restaurant business, wasn't so fortunate. He pursued his objectives without heeding the counsel of others. He lost everything he owned. Worse, he left town without communicating with many of his investors and fled the state in shame. Both he and I could have avoided our financial losses and humiliation had we only humbled ourselves and heeded the counsel of others. Yesterday, I was in a peer-to-peer group. And so if you're familiar with peer-to-peer groups where business people come together or even professionals, different groups of people, in this case, they were entrepreneurs. And it was our first meeting together. And so we're going around the room, and there were a couple of people who had issues that they were dealing with, and they were asking for impact from the other entrepreneurs in the area, in the room. So there's one guy whose business is doing well, and he's in the HR recruitment space, said that he wanted to, he was thinking about borrowing some money, and he felt like he had enough, I guess his balance sheet was strong enough to support a $500,000 loan from the bank. But he says he's risk averse, but he was interested in doing it because he felt like he could get to where he wanted to go faster with his growth, and also take some of the work that he's doing off of him and hire some people to do it, which would also help him to grow faster. So, but then he just kept saying, but I'm risk averse. And so go around the room, everybody ask questions and comment this and that. And it became clear to me several things. One, he did not have a plan. He had not been planning. So he didn't know specifically if he had the $500,000, what exactly he would do with it. He did not have a reason for a $500,000 amount. We just kind of basically picked that amount out of the air. His concern about the risk was if the economy went bad, he might not be able to pay the money back. He wouldn't know what to do. But the underlying common thread denominator to everything that I heard him say was that he did not have a plan. And so I asked him, I said, hey, do you have any advisors? Have you talked to anybody, whether it's your accountant, your CPA, your lawyer, other people that you go to, if you have a board of advisors or informal advisors, to help you come up with a plan? And he said that he hadn't. So I told him, I said, your fear is the fear of the unknown, because you don't know what you're going to do with the money. You don't really know how much you need, and you don't know what to do if something were to go wrong. But it all came back to not having a team. So as each one of us here, I'm going to throw out right now to you guys, who is your team? Are you operating by yourself? Okay. Or do you operate and you have either a formal or informal team of people that are helping you, advise you, guide you, and give you feedback? So floor is open. You can unmute and talk. It's okay.
I just mute. Okay, cool.
I'll wait. I'll wait.
Well, I have been looking for a team for at least 4 years. I hire assistant, I hire coaches, I join main groups. I got into our main groups. I'm in a main group with Hutch because I was looking for a team. I visit the church, I visit different men's at the church, I asked for leadership, and they refer me to another guy. And after the 5th try, they refer me with this group. So one of the things that I'm putting on the table, I'm putting to God, I'm putting to the Holy Spirit and all my angels, is that I need people around me. And I believe that's the reason why I'm here. But I have not found the support that I need. And maybe it's because I didn't have clear goals, but now I have it. I have clear goals. On Mondays, I'm doing a session at 5 p.m. On Thursday, I'm doing a session at 5 p.m. 2 groups there. And also I'm focusing on connect with high schools. So I have clear goals. I need to find people on key corners there to connect me with the right people. But it's hard to find it, especially I don't want to say especially, but including in our group of faith. Every time we ask for help in our group of faith, they will say, "Oh yeah, I will pray for you." Okay, I need more than that. I need counsel. I need to be listened. I need to work together and put in place strategies together to do it. So I need a little more about the prayer. I need more things like this session. And let me tell you, this is a testimony from my heart. I have been here for 3 weeks, and it changed a lot of things in my life. I started listening to the Proverbs. I recorded the Proverbs. I shared with you guys last week the audios. I'm listening to the audios every day, at least 3 of the audios. I already read half of this book that is amazing. And that is all because I open my heart and I open my time to be here with you guys. Now I feel, or I can trust that I will be here every Friday with a team of people that is working this type of knowledge and information with me. So to finish my participation, I'm in search of that. If you want to help me or support me, I can share with you my calendar. If you need my support, my calendar is there. Just do an appointment. It's a free consultation. Just go there. Tell me, hey, Ignacio, can you help me here with this? And we will do solid plans, solid steps. Not only I will pray for you, I at least I will give you a call or do something for you to connect you or to put you close to the place that you want to be. And I believe that that's the final call that we have. Like, okay, reserve at least 20 minutes, half an hour to support another person and to connect that person to reach that goal, to connect that person to the next step to the goal. And I'm open to that for you guys if you need it.
Well, thank you, Ignacio. I'm kind of curious. Does anybody? I don't know if you've heard this term before. PBD, personal board of directors, which is something that people use and have. But is there anyone here that has any kind of informal or formal board or group that you rely on for guidance, advice, and feedback, and so on, counsel? Sharon, I see you smiling. What? Go ahead, Angelina.
I do have a coach, and I have 2 ladies that I talk to, and one is a coach, but she got sick and she is not exercising. However, I don't have, which you're talking, I think it would be good to have something like that. So I just wanted to throw out there.
Yeah. Okay. Sharon, were you going to say something?
Well, I'm sitting here taking a page full of notes, especially when Ignacio, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I just start taking notes and internally laughing because, yeah, I'm sitting here and I get great information and a great start for Friday. But have I really put things in place, written them down, have goals, be intentional, have a plan, as opposed to something that's in my mind and not written down on paper?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a member of different groups, and I get have coaches for different things that I do, but nothing on a more upper level scale that's looking over everything that I'm doing. And but I got to get some clarity first, talk to God and say, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing in all of these different areas of my life so that I'm clear. And, when you're married and you have family and friends and business and jobs, it's a lot to try to, take care of. But I got to get clarity. And that's really my step one. I got to be clear first before I start asking for help, because I can't just say, help me. And they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And you're like, I don't know. I want to make $1 million. Okay, how are you going to do that? But that's the thing. I got to get some clarity and make sure that my goals and visions are clear. Here it is now. It's the end of January 2024. Days go by quickly, and I got to be prepared.
Well, Sharon, taking a little bit of a segue from what you mentioned about getting clarity about, so you can then start maybe having some people that you bring around that can help. Um, I've heard people say, when they're really busy and say, hey, so are you putting together plans? Do you have a goal of what you're trying to go? No, I'm so busy. I don't have time to do goals right now. I just got to get this stuff done. And so everybody's laughing because you kind of know the thing like, well, if you are that busy, then you better plan, okay? And I can tell you from my own, and guys, I use myself, all the time for all of the dumb stuff, the mistakes that we all make, and I'm always, open with mine. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is it is absolutely criminal if you're not constantly planning. I read something recently that was also pretty interesting, and it was by Dwight Eisenhower. And basically, he says plans are useless, but planning is essential. Think about that for a minute. Plans are useless, but planning is essential. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, okay, we need to break this down a little bit. What do you mean plans are useless, but planning is essential? Now, Dwight Eisenhower is a former president of the United States, former head of the Army, and you know that military people and generals, they're always planning, okay? And so here's what it basically boiled down to. What it boiled down to is that, have you ever put together a plan and conditions changed?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever put together a plan and the precepts, the assumptions that you made early on that your plans projected from changed? So what does that mean? Your plan is either needs to be at minimum altered, changed, updated, or it may be totally now, not relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. But what it means is you still got to continue to plan. So that's the understanding is we always need to be planning, because plans and conditions are two factors where conditions will impact whatever plan that you have. And if you're not updating your plan, measuring your plan, and doing those kind of things, and you're sticking with a plan that you did 2 years ago, it may no longer be relevant because, things have changed. Ignacio.
That's an amazing phrase there, and we need to understand that when we do the planning, we are exercising our brain. That's the reason why you do the planning. It's like many of kids ask, why we do math, why we do physics, we will never use those things on real life. Well, you exercise your brain, you stretch your brain, and that's the idea of planning. Maybe you will never go back and check the plan. You write it down, all those notebooks, and you have it there in a corner. You will never see it again. It's the act of doing it. It's the act of being here. Maybe we will not see this video never again, but we are here doing this conversation, and our brain are growing, and our brain are learning, and they're expanding and expanding. So just the action of the planning is super important. And people do not realize how important is to do that exercise. It's like going to the gym, doing the repetition, the abs, it stretch your brain. And I believe that is important to be here, to stop for an hour, to reserve that time and have this space, because we're reading this book all together in a fraction of the time and learning in a fraction of the time. And it's very important for us to take that time to planning or to do these type of things to stretch the brain. I just want to say.
Thank you, Ignacio. Sharon?
Yes, I was this quote that I normally go back to, and you just kind of re-emphasize this quote by Benjamin Franklin. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail.
Right. Yeah. And as my daddy used to tell me all the time, son, plan your time and time your plan. But no, you're right. And Ignacio said something too that was really critical. And I'm constantly updating my things to do. You know, we all have a task list of things that we have to do. And what I've always found interesting is that, you know, you may sit down beginning of a day, beginning of a week, and, you know, and inevitably, there's never been a time that I've sat down and started writing out the things I have to do that I thought I had 4 or 5 things to do, and next thing I know, I got 20, you know, because my brain starts dumping all the stuff that, you know, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. Oh, but pull it back out. Oh, one more thing. And next thing I know. And then, you know, you go about, you know, executing, you know, start working on it, so chopping your tree down, so to speak. I don't know for you, but I've had this experience where I may have done that on Monday, and then I go back on Wednesday and say, oh, let me take a look and see how I'm doing. And it never ceases to amaze me how many things I actually do on my list. I don't have to walk around with my list, you know, checking it off, you know, as I go along, you know, because as Ignacio was just saying, what I've learned is the process of doing it then elevates, if you will, the focus. And if I have the discipline and I'm putting in the time, I'm going to be knocking it down. So, you know, it really is, you know, very important. So let me jump back. I got a couple things I want to do, and we've got 15 minutes. I want to make sure I don't run out of time here. Let me get back to wrapping up this chapter in the book. And as he was talking about, you know, accomplishing, you know, your goals and dreams and plans, partnering can really help you do it. It also helps to reduce risk. You know, sometimes, you know, when you're taking on something, the risk of doing it can be really high. And if you bring other people in it, you're not only spreading, say, a financial, you know, risk, but you're also spreading whatever risk of something going wrong, that you have somebody, if you have more than yourself, that's a part of the team that is there who may be able to lean in. And here's a perfect example of something I'm talking about. So here, I'm going to talk about this last one on the left side of the page. You'll be able to win battles that would otherwise be lost. And in Ecclesiastes 4:12, it says, though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You know, and I know you've all probably seen that scripture before. And again, you know, everything here is very scripturally based. So here's what Scott talks about. From 1979 until 1985, his partners created a television marketing campaign for a small life insurance company. They created a joint venture which they advanced the money for the television marketing campaign, and the insurance company provided the insurance policies to the viewers who responded. So Steve's team did the marketing. The insurance company, their part of the partnership was to provide the insurance policies. The agreement stated that the profits from these campaigns will be split 50-50. In 1985, the company was purchased, the insurance company was purchased by a foreign company that refused to pay the share of the profits that was owed them. Their attitude was, sue us. I think the guy probably was Donald Trump. I know I shouldn't have said that, but I just couldn't resist. They knew that they did not have the money to survive 5 to 10 years of litigation, which is why people say that sue me thing. We were devastated. Not only did the company that bought the insurance company not pay the profits that they owed, they didn't even reimburse them for the millions of dollars that were spent on the previous campaigns. And they had used their own credit to purchase airtime from hundreds of television stations and now had no money to pay the bills. So he goes on to say, fortunately for us, as this was happening, we brought in a 7th partner, a brilliant former president of an insurance company and a man of the highest integrity. Without even being asked, he volunteered to empty his personal savings account and pay the stations enough money to keep them temporarily satisfied. He then miraculously negotiated a wonderful deal for us with another insurance company. We then created a campaign that made enough money to pay off all of our debt, return his money, and sustain our business. In our case, a cord of 8 strands kept us from being overpowered and broken. We went on to create many new companies and overpower our competition, and for a number of years, we became more productive than any public company in the world. Without the strength of partnership, we would have been overpowered and bankrupted 27 years ago. You know, And very powerful testimony there, about that. So as you go here now, just leave this as a kind of a closing. At the end of every one of his chapters, he gives the next page. He kind of summarizes and gives, if you will, an outline of the key points taken away in that particular chapter, which you see here. So I just kind of wanted to point that out for those of you who hadn't seen this book yet, and kind of give you an idea of some of the value and the way it's laid out, in addition to the great information that is there. I wanted to also go to the book that I mentioned to you earlier about God, my CEO, and so. Any of you guys familiar with Tony Dungy? You raise your hand if you're familiar with Tony Dungy. Okay. All right. Tony Dungy is a former NFL player who became an NFL head coach and became very highly respected and won a NFL championship with the Indianapolis Colts. As a matter of fact, he would have won one with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they fired him the year before they won the NFL championship and the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of folks that will tell you that the guy that they hired, who came in and won the Super Bowl in his first year, owes that Super Bowl to Tony Dungy, because the 4 years prior, Tony Dungy had put the team together and put them in place. And then when this guy came in, he became kind of a rock star because you won a Super Bowl your first year. But Tony Dungy showed, his mettle, if you will, by going to the Indianapolis Colts and then winning a Super Bowl there. The guy who won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay that took over Tony Dungy's team never won another Super Bowl. I'm not saying anything that he wasn't capable, but that's just the track record. So anyway, this is Tony Dungy. Another thing about Tony Dungy is he's highly recognized as being a very spiritual and strong man of faith. Okay. And so in this book, the title of the chapter is Pressure from the Outside, Sticking to God's Plan Produces Results. Okay. Matter of fact, it starts out talking about how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers walked dejectedly back to their locker room. Pressure was growing after another heartbreaking loss. Their 1996 NFL season was now an awful 0-5. And as you know, in professional sports, when you're losing, whoo, that is a pressure cooker. Okay. And took him 15 years to become a head coach in the NFL. He was only the fourth black head coach in NFL history. Finally receiving his opportunity, he's not winning. Okay. And Tony recalls that he was disappointed but not discouraged. I prayed, Lord, you brought us here for a reason. You have something in store for us. I felt our situation would make our story even better. Tony believed that God had a greater plan that transcended winning and losing. Okay. At one point, he some frustrations, to winning or losing to one of his teammates earlier in his career named Donnie Shell. And Donnie said to him, football is the most important thing in your life, Tony. And God wants to see if that is above him or below him. Until you are ready to put football below him, you will always be frustrated with your problems. This made Tony take a look at himself and his priorities. From that point on, he placed his football career in God's hands. His favorite Bible verse, Proverbs 16:3, demonstrates the key to Tony's patience, because one of the things that he became known for is being this really even-keeled guy. I mean, he wasn't going all over the place, up or down and everything. And it came because in Proverbs 16:3, he believes, commit to the Lord whatever you do and your plans will succeed. And so as he goes on, and I'm going to tell some of the rest of the story, his long-term plan when he was coaching really was challenged when his team stumbled to a disastrous 0-5 start. The losing streak was difficult, and he saw how the players, were growing though. And so he says, I'm going to model everything that we need to stand for. So in the midst of adversity, he modeled the character and patience he wanted in his players. He had been on a losing team. He knew what that looked like. He also knew it was crucial for him to be that model in the midst, defeat. And so as he went on, the whole team, including him, there were people coming to him on the team saying, at some point, we know the coach is going to lose it. He's going to come in here. He's going to start throwing stuff. He's going to start yelling at people. He's going to start cutting players and so on and so forth. But he didn't do that. Okay. And today, and if you guys are, any NFL fans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this book was written, 10 years ago. So putting it in context in terms of timing. So he was saying how in the book, they're saying today, the Tampa Bay Bucks represent a very different kind of success story because their success now has been defined by winning. So a few years under Tony's leadership, they went from losers to becoming winners. They became the 1999 NFL Central Division champions. But then the success story went on beyond that because not only did they win the NFL title eventually, the players, because of Tony's leadership, became role models and the community really bought into them. And so as we close out with this, Tony Dungy says that even when success is delayed, patience is ultimately rewarded, even in a business that is so demanding. When you have success, it's easy to stick with your convictions. Let me say that again. When you have success, it is easy to stick with your convictions. I mean, when you don't have any problems and no challenges, you can be the most principled guy in the world. But man, let your money get tight, okay? Like, you're tired big time, okay? But now it's like, oh, wait a minute, money a little tight, and I was planning to buy this new car, or I was planning to go on vacation. God knows my heart. Let me do this, and I'll pick up my tithes when I come back. And we all make, if you will, decisions in a moment that don't necessarily always reflect the principles that we want to say that we live by. But the reality is that, it's kind of like it says in the Bible, and you hear it different ways. It's easy to love somebody that loves you. Okay. The real test of character when you see what happens and how people stand in the midst of adversity, chaos, and disappointment. And so Tony Dungy, was a guy who went through it all. And I mean, he had to stay strong despite a lot of different failures. And he went on, to become one of the most loved and respected coaches in the NFL because he put God first. He stuck to his principles, his conviction that I am not going to lose it because the circumstances suggest that we're losers. I serve a mighty God. I serve a God that is capable, that never fails. My faith is not in what is going on around me. My faith is on the one who is above me. Okay. And so that's wisdom. Okay. And that wisdom led him on to success. And if you watch any NFL between now and the Super Bowl, you're going to see Tony Dungy on the sideline. So as a commentator, or in the studio, as a commentator. And he's one of those guys they bring out when they get down to, the playoffs and the Super Bowl. He doesn't do a whole lot of stuff during the season because he's all busy doing a bunch of other things. And as we look at relationships, as we look at, our relationship with God, our commitment to pursue wisdom, to understand as God says to us, with many counselors, plans succeed, with few, they fail. Don't allow, I tell people that work with me, I use a phrase with them quite frequently, and I tell them, you can fail. Okay, no, I'm sorry. You can succeed on your own, but you're not allowed to fail on your own. Okay? So you can't come to me and say, this didn't work out, I blew it, it didn't happen. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Why didn't you call me while things were going south? You can't come to me after everything has fallen apart, failed, and is over, and then tell me, well, it just didn't work out. I tried everything I can. Because up front, I tell you, now you can come to me all day long and tell me, hey, Hutch, look what I did. We just made a $20,000 sale. Hey, Hutch, look, I just accomplished this objective. I did it on my own. Fantastic. I ain't mad at you. That's great. But you can't come to me and tell me that you failed at something by yourself. And that's one of the keys to success in life, because no one knows it all. No one has it all. And many times the blessings that God gives us are the people that they put in our lives. So I'll stop right there. And the situation is we were talking about maintaining your convictions in the face of adversity, maintaining your faith and your conviction to God's word, and believing in God to be able to deliver you. Anyone want to share a situation, circumstance, your thoughts as it relates to that particular principle?
Well, in your last comment, I thought also that we need to pay attention to the people that is around us, because they sometimes they don't want to ask for help, and we need to pay attention to what is happening with our kids, with our wife, with the people that is our friends, and ask them, do you need my help? Do you need help in your business? Do you need help there? Like a lot of the friends, Robin Williams friends, say to themselves, well, he was so happy person, like I don't know what happened with him. But if you pay a little attention of his last couple of years, he was on a deep depression. And if you just paid attention to that, well, a lot of their friends miss that, and I don't want to miss that from one of my friends or one of my colleagues, that they were in a tough situation, and I was not aware of that, and I was not aware of the simple things that I can do for others, because sometimes for us it's a simple thing, for the other person is very difficult. As I mentioned, I'm looking for high school. For me, it's very difficult to be in front of a high school person that can invite me to be there, a coach or a principal. And maybe you are a principal here in this group, or a principal, and it will be super easy for you just to make a call and make it happen. But for the person that is suffering the situation, it's difficult, like Robin Williams, or maybe a kid of us, or a person that we love. We need to pay attention. We need to see every day what is happening in their life, and ask simple questions. How is your business going? How is your marriage going? So I believe also we need to pay more attention to the people that is close to us, and less to the social media stuff.
Well, Ignacio, what you're saying is so on point. I was part of a discussion with Black Enterprise back in October. They do this thing called Black Men Excel, and it was the publisher, myself, and another guy, and we were talking to basically close to probably like 400 Black professional men down at the Turnberry Resort in Aventura. And our topic was being intentional about supporting each other. And one of the topics, and the way we delivered on that topic, was what you just talked about. And we talked about the phrase, I'm good. Okay. And how many times have you asked somebody how they're doing, and they say to you, I'm good, right? And this is a kind of a typical phrase, right? Men in particular, good. Yeah, I was good. Everybody's projecting a strong sense of, being in charge, being well, doing good. I mean, I even got one guy, a friend of mine, who you asked me how he's doing, phenomenally fantastic. I'm like, Nick, but the point I'm going to get to that you were making is that we do have to be intentional about leaning into people, and really, and so we even talked about it. So like, for instance, a lot of times when you see somebody, particularly guys, you kind of do this, like, hey, how you doing? And you kind of lean in, kind of give each other a little pound. And so what we said in this session, and it can be executed in all kinds of ways, so this is not the only way. When you lean in, say, hey, how you really doing? Okay. And just pause for a minute because, it was so funny. The CEO, the publisher of Black Enterprise, told the story that he did this once with his housekeeper, and said, "Hey, how you really doing?" And he really just said it. He at that particular moment in time, he really wasn't looking for her to tell him exactly how she was doing. But she decided, oh, well, since you asked, this is how I'm doing, But it did give him an opportunity to help her with something that he wouldn't have had she not done it. It just so happens, though, he was on his way out the door. He did to get moving, but this delayed it. But it was a delay that needed to happen. But the reason why I bring it up wasn't to laugh at what happened to him. He was making the point that we have to remember that when you do that, be prepared for what might come next. Okay? So you have to be genuine and authentic when you say to somebody, how are you really doing? Okay? And Ignacio and our group, Ignacio and I both were in a men's ministry group. And so you've heard Cowie, present in our group. And last year, probably like middle of the year, Cowie said something to the same thing that was really important. And it was basically this thing, and that is whenever people who are close to you, always ask them, hey, is there something that you need? Is there anything I can do to help you? Because generally, we all want to project that we're doing well. And particularly, you talk about in the world of social media, everybody's living their best life. It's good. I'm good. I'm great. You need to be like me, And but you're absolutely right. I hope I'm sorry I didn't, but that point that you made, Ignacio, was so important, and I think it's critical. Whether you're talking about people that you're managing, people who are in your family, friends, you can become a much greater, if you will, servant of Christ if you take a moment, to love on somebody just by saying, "Hey, how are you really doing?" and give them space and time to tell you. Because sometimes people just need to be able to get something off their chest and to be encouraged or to be reminded who they are and whose they are.
Can I just say something?
Huh?
Is there still time to say something?
Yeah, no, please.
Right. Okay.
You're gonna get the last word, Yinka.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the Proverbs, the last time, Proverbs 15:22. I think that talks about plans fail when there's no consultation, and
Yes.
then there is accomplishment through many advisors. So sometimes when you just talk to one person, and you can get discouraged because they discourage you, and then don't just stop there. I think my advice is not just because it's happened to me. I just stopped there. I shelved the plan for about 5 years or 6 years, and only to find out that okay, this best. Let me just tell you the situation. I wrote screenplays, and I was going to make a film after of it, and that was a new interest. And after I left my job voluntarily, and then this guy told me that I should, because he's made many films. He just said, "Oh no, you have to do shorts first because you can't. You're not crawling. You want to walk or something like that." And I got discouraged. I just shelved it. Only to find out that 6 years later, no, another person in their category also said the same thing. That's the lady. And then 6 years later, only last year actually, I found out that people have used the same screenplay that I wrote, copyright infringement. They took part of it and they made, one of them made $40 million. Another one made $10 million, and that was just initial sales. And another one made $4.3 million. And I was going to take one of them to court because it was glaringly, open that he actually copied more than 800 similarities in one of them. I haven't even checked the others properly. But I'm thinking now, I started thinking that later I got two mentors. I paid £10,000 to both of them, and only to find out that I didn't even have to do anything to the script, because they were telling these other guys, they were telling me that I had to do shorts. Shorts was not necessary because I have written a full feature. And so I regretted it. Maybe I should have connected with more people, more advisors, So I'm just saying that it's good to ask, to network, to talk to as many people as you can, instead of just limit yourself to one or two people.
Well, I think there's two things I want to add to it real quickly. One, you're absolutely right. It's even something as simple as getting directions. When I'm getting directions, I will tend to always at least ask two, if not at least three people. Okay. Because I'm looking for consistency. And if you've ever, been lost and you've asked one person, then you ask another person, you're like, well, wait a minute, this person said do this person said do that. So I go ask the third person to see which one matches, that kind of thing. The other one is, to be diligent and wise about who you ask, because everybody does not know something about what you're asking about, and so, but what you just said, Yinka, is absolutely right. And had you probably talked to 3 or 4 different people, someone may have given you a different answer that may have led you down a different path. And I really appreciate you bringing that up. And the reality, guys, is that we learn from our mistakes, our setbacks, so much more than we ever learn from our successes. So we're going to always talk about things in FaithWorks Friday that we've learned, and how we learned them. Usually because, we stubbed our toe, we made a mistake, we fell down, but because of our faith in God, we got back up, and so Ignacio, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to close us out in prayer.
Thank you, my friend. Okay, let's bow our heads. Holy Father, thank you for the opportunity of being here. Thank you for being alive and being the life of people that we can help, that we can support. Heavenly Father, guide us to help others on each step on their purpose. We recognize that we have a purpose on this earth, that you sent us to this earth to fulfill that purpose. Help us on that path, guide us, and help us to support others on that path. Thank you, Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody, have a great week. Thank you for being here. Just to give you a little heads up, next month, our theme is going to be, can you stand to be blessed?
Level up your success with the ICABA World Network, where accomplished Black professionals and entrepreneurs have created a thriving global ecosystem built from valuable connections and impactful collaborations. Be a part of a trusted network that uplifts, inspires, and enhances your success. Join like-minded and leading Black professionals to foster meaningful relationships, unlock opportunities, and access the resources you need to thrive in your career, business, and life. Go to ICABAWorldNetwork.com and join today.